Yeah, and it's interesting because sometimes they bring up like Black shows and they don't talk about Diff'rent Strokes. I'm like, how could you not talk about Diff'rent Strokes? That was the pivotal point for a lot of Black people, for other shows to start happening. It's interesting. The Roots is the best one. That was like, the most viewed miniseries in history. 77 million people watched that.
You were in
Yeah.
Roots. That is incredible. What are the 3 monumental or milestone moments in your life that you would say made you the person you are today?
I would say, learning. I think the monumental was learning that this country is a lot more racist than I thought.
Okay, well, we're really diving in. Okay.
And learning that men, I think more men, and I've learned that now, need to be truthful to their emotions and feelings.
Mm-hmm.
I think that a lot of men, we run from our feelings and emotions because we were taught, the era that I was raised in, you were taught you don't have feelings, you just do this and you're that. Man, it just has to be like this. I think that is one thing that I had to learn.
Okay.
And I think after, I'm 32, I'm going on 32 years, February 24th of next year, I'll be 32 years sober. Learning that I am a good person, and I know that the more that I more in touch with my feelings and emotions, the better that I am as a person.
Of course.
And always speaking your truth, but knowing how to tell people if someone has done something to you, knowing how to tell them what they've done in a better way than being mean. You just tell them, hey, that hurt my feelings and that wasn't right. You know what I mean? And trying not to, but the era that I was raised in and all the things that I went through, it's so difficult to put all those things in motion all the time. I'm not Jesus Christ, so I make mistakes too.
Oh, it's so true. I mean, I'm Gen X. I'm younger than you. I'm 50.
Mm-hmm.
But I was raised with a very strict, no nonsense dad, and believe it or not, he didn't like shows of emotion either. So even though I'm a woman and I'm very sensitive, to learn how to tell people, just like you said, I had to learn how to tell people when they violated or hurt my feelings, but with a better tone and in a more tactful way. That you don't have to attack when you feel hurt.
Yes.
Right?
Yes.
So
but also learning that people, that I will defend myself also. Absolutely. Some people want you to be a doormat, and that like, I know people that are like doormats. They just allow themselves to be used and never say anything. And I'm not that kind of person.
Me neither.
I'm very upfront about how I feel, but I'm learning to do it in a much more tactful way. That's better for everybody, including myself.
Absolutely. And so you've been sober now for, you said 32 years?
I'll be 32 years, February, so 31 and 10 months. 10 months.
First of all, congratulations.
Thank you. Incredible. But it's not talked about enough. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
That's the thing. The media has a bad habit when it comes to me, always putting out my stuff I did 32 years ago first, then putting out, then not even mentioning that I'm 32 years sober. So it's making people feel like that, I'm just out there running amok, and I'm not. I've been sober for 32 years. I worked hard at it.
People know that at this point. I mean, that's like ancient.
They're just now learning it. They're just now learning it again. Yeah.
Well, let me ask you this. How, being sober for 32 years is a huge success story. So how did you correct course? How did you go from addiction, being on trial for your life, to now being 32 years sober, being married, having a beautiful family? How did you correct course?
How I corrected course was I realized that I had to fix something. And, after all the damage that that I went through with the police department, when I was talking about that, nobody believed me. They thought it was all me. But then when they found out, now with the lights of cameras and stuff, people see that I wasn't lying about what was happening in this country and what was happening to me personally. And when I realized that something had to change and I couldn't be the same way anymore, I had to change things. I got tired of doing the same thing over and over, expecting different results and getting the same results. So I knew that a change would happen. And I remember when I was in the rehab program, I remember this light came over me, and God said, I'm going to put people in your path. You just listen to what they tell you to and do what they tell you to do. Don't question it, and you will be sober for a long time. And that's exactly what happened. That's how I finally got it. I think that, you're not ready to get it until you're ready to get it. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And especially this program is a program for success stories, but it's for people who want to succeed. Unfortunately, you have to surrender to win the program, to make the program work. That's difficult for people who want, who are, like to win stuff, and don't like to surrender. Surrender is a tough thing.
It is, because it's very, very hard to push your ego aside, because your ego is always wanting to get in and defend whatever it is that you're doing. Yeah. It's not easy.
Yep. But then when you finally learn this program is all about, surrendering to win, I knew what to do. So I surrendered 100% and I won.
How does it work? Like sobriety, is it a daily struggle or?
Well, when you've been sober for a long time, it's not really a daily struggle. What the struggle is just staying in touch with your feelings and your emotions, because, the drug is just a symptom. That's not what it actually is. It's about the person itself. You're always trying to change how you feel and you want to make yourself feel better. Sure. And unfortunately, when I was growing up, we never got any real explanation of why not to do drugs. It was always, don't do drugs. Why not? Because we said not to. That's all it was. You know what I mean? And today I think that, like my kids have a really big understanding of it, and I've shown them, the reasons not to, and I gave them an explanation. So that's why they haven't ever done that, because they know what's going to take place, what's going to happen, and they have a full explanation of it. It's kind of like you just tell a person, okay, well, get in and drive this car. But if you don't know how to drive that car, you say, it ain't going to work. You're going to run into something. So I think that we have to give children a lot more explanation when we tell them not to do something. Give them the reason why you tell them not to do something, and then if they continue to do it, then you handle what you have to do. But and I think that I just, I saw the light. God healed my heart. He healed a lot of pain that I was going through from being, molested as a child, from having an alcoholic father, and from, I'm sure you read a lot of police things, but I mean, like I was getting pulled over every day for like 3 years going to work.
I did not know that.
Oh yeah, I was getting pulled by the police, and I used to bring an extra pair of change of clothes in my car and it started when I was 12 years old. When I first moved to the San Fernando Valley, the police I'd be riding my bike with my white friends, and they would pull me over and take my bike and handcuff me and told me I stole my bike. Wow. And if any kid there you could afford his bike, it was me. I definitely could afford my bike, and so I think going through all that, I had a chip on my shoulder. I became angry with myself, with everything around me, because I couldn't understand how you can become so successful in this country and still be treated, like you're dirt, And
let me ask you this, because you mentioned the racism at the beginning of the conversation. So what I want to ask you is, when you were on Diff'rent Strokes and you were a teenager and you were on the show with Janet Jackson, who was also a teenager at the time, and you guys were very close, did you ever have private conversations where you discussed the fact that you were two Black, very famous teenagers on a very popular hit show, and that you were sort of these prototypes for what Black kids all over the country were like looking to, as role models, and you're just young and trying to figure it all out yourself? Did you ever have those kinds of conversations?
Yeah. And we also had it with Kim Fields also. We were very, where I was fortunate about in the business was sometimes I'd go audition for a role that was strictly made for a white guy, but they would give it to white kid, but they would give it to me anyway, because they knew I could handle it and I was good at it. But I think where the difference is different being a Black female and being a Black male. Generally, the females don't have as much trouble as the male. I mean, I'm sure they have a lot of trouble too, but the males probably have a lot more, because we're more, I think we scare them more. You know what I mean? Because I'm the ones that their daughters are going to want to go out with. I'm the one that, you know what I mean? So it puts fear in them, I think, So what the conversations we always had was always about how, just difficult the business was itself, I started so early to where either you were a television actor or you were a movie actor or you were a stage actor. You couldn't do all three, and you couldn't do, even two of them. You had to be one or the other. I think for what changed for us was when Michael J. Fox ended up got into that first big movie, Back to the Future. That started changing things for actors on TV. And now it's changing all around, man. There were times when I grew up where movie stars did not do commercials. That was
I know,
like low.
I know.
It's like, oh, that's low on the pole. You know what I mean? But now nobody cares. Everybody does everything. No one cares.
Everybody does everything.
Yeah. It's just about, getting your money and working and getting paid. That's what it's all about.
So, but tell me about being famous at that time, and what was that? Was it enjoyable? Was it anxiety provoking? What was it?
I think it was a couple of things. It was exciting because you were well known, but then also you had a target on your back. So it wasn't that exciting because of the target you had on your back. And it was a lot different living in Southern California than it was living in San Francisco. That was completely two different places. San Francisco, everybody got along. No one cared what color you were. And then when I moved to Los Angeles, my first experience with racism was when we had bought a house. We were buying a house in Culver City. And my mom on the phone sounded like a white lady. So they were like, oh, yes, Miss Bridges, your credit checks out. You have the money. Oh, we have a house for you. It's perfect. And we go there and they see all these black people with big afros. And they were like, oh, no, we don't have any houses for sale here anymore. Oh, yeah, that was my first experience. That's when I knew, like, what's going on? So my mom got one of her white friends to go in and they actually got the house for us. And my mom, ended up signing on it. But so how serious it was me and my brother were walking with our friend David Avino. We were walking to football practice and these white guys drove by and called us the N-word. And our friend David got mad. We're like, man, what are you mad about? I go, they called you the N-word. We're like, yeah, but that's an ignorant person who can't read and write. That's not us. We didn't even know what the N-word meant because we had never heard it. Yeah. And then when we found out, then we were mad. But, that's the kind of, I came from a place where there wasn't any racism. And I moved to a place where there was a lot, and the stuff that I went through, it was hard to handle as a kid, being famous and still dealing with that. You know what I mean? So I think that was the difficult part for me. So what happens, what makes a perfect addict, I think, is that when they're going through so much stuff that they can't understand. And at the same time, my father was an alcoholic and abusive to me and my mom. So you're dealing with all that. You go into the real world, you're dealing with what you got to deal with there. And then you go to work, and the work is not a real life. It's fictional. But then you still experience racism in the workplace also, because it's, you're the only black. Me and Gary Coleman were the only black people on a show at that time. And we had no black crew members, and then I started speaking up and they finally got black crew members. We got a black director, finally. So all this happened where it was making us feel a lot better because we had people around us. And at one time in Hollywood, the only way to get through to come in Hollywood was through my mom or my dad. My dad was an agent. My mom was a manager. So without them, you couldn't have gotten in. It was too difficult.
Well, I mean, it's always been that way for sure. Yeah. I mean, did you choose being an actor or?
Oh yeah. I wanted to be an actor all my life.
Oh, you
when I was 5 years old, I used to watch Red Fox on Sanford and Son and be like, I want to do that. And the great part about it was when I worked for Tanner Productions, they owned Sanford and Son, and I got to meet Red Fox. And I'll tell you what was interesting. What I love about Red Fox was I got to meet one of my idols. And Red Fox, the greatest thing about Red Fox was, I remember when I was sitting in the hallway one time, and the studio bought me a motorcycle helmet. Don't ask me why. I didn't have a motorcycle, and I'm sitting there holding a helmet, and Red Fox comes through and goes, what's that? I go, I don't know. It's a helmet, but they bought me a helmet, but I don't know why they bought me this. I don't have a motorcycle. I got a bike, but I don't need a helmet for a bike. And he's like, oh, that's kind of dumb. Then he left and he came back the next day and he bought me and Kim Phil's 3-wheelers.
Nice.
Right. So that was like, yeah, now I finally had something to use the helmet on. So yeah, it was just different. It was, it's a lot better now, in this country, but it's still, I'm not going to talk about any political stuff, but you see people, the stuff that goes on and you're like, man, has this country really changed, or is it hidden more and it's just not as open as, as we thought it was? I just think that this country has a lot to learn. And the good part about it is I don't have to carry that burden anymore. That's the great part about it. You learn to only carry the burdens that are mine. I don't have to carry anybody else's. And that's what I was so I absorbed a lot of emotions from people. I carried a lot of their stuff too. And I realized I don't have to do that anymore. All I gotta do is carry mine, and that's it.
You know what I think? Like, this just occurred to me. I feel like this country is almost like a dysfunctional family. Like
Yeah.
if you come from a dysfunctional family, you grow up, you meet up for the holidays, but it's the root of the family is dysfunctional.
Yeah.
Right. So you can put a bow on it. You can do this, you can do that, but there's all of this stuff. And it's almost like you don't want to pick up all the stuff because then it just leaves dust everywhere. So
exactly. Yeah. Yeah.
what can you do?
Well, I think that as long as you keep yourself, for me, as long as I keep myself and my space from getting tainted too much from that, you know what I mean? And letting it really change my emotions or who I am. And that's what I've learned to do is that I don't have to live with their crap anymore. I got my own, I know how to keep my own yard clean. And that's what I have to do is keep my own yard clean, keep things rolling. But, I'm not perfect. I make mistakes still, but I'll tell you what, the mistake I don't make is relapsing. I won't make that mistake again.
Right.
That's something that I've truly learned from, and that was over 31 years ago. And I won't let that happen again. I take care of my necessary needs, take care of myself. Because the most important thing is if I don't take care of myself, I can't help nobody else.
Absolutely. I want to ask you kind of about a sensitive topic.
Mm-hmm.
And I was like flip-flopping on how to bring this up, whether to bring this up. But you mentioned it. You mentioned being molested in the business when you were younger. There's a lot of stuff that has come out in recent times. Things that come out about Nickelodeon and Disney, allegedly. Things that have come out in the music industry. Is this something that you, apart from even what happened to you, is this something that you witnessed even going back to the 70s, 80s, 90s?
Well, no, I never witnessed it. I was just a victim of it. It wasn't something that I witnessed. No, I was just a victim of it. And it came from a good family friend who was my publicist. That's where it came from. So the problem was that it was really my father, kind of messed me up to where he was like, my mom didn't want me to be alone with this guy. My dad was like, he's fine. What's wrong? And back then, mothers usually listen to what the husband said. And that was the guy who did me wrong. So I think that today, it's very important that you take care of your children, that you watch who's around them. You don't leave them alone with any strangers. You just don't do that. And then you got to, you make sure your family members are good. And when you know that they are, then those are the ones you keep around you. It's something that you have to be very hypersensitive about. I'm probably overly sensitive about it, but it still protects my kids because I am. And they can say, oh, Dad, you're so old. I'm like, I don't care. That's too bad. That's how I'm going to stay because it's only going to make their life better. Because this is something that destroys kids and takes a long time for kids to come out of this. It took me years to get over that. So I think that you have to be strong-willed and know on the lookout. I heard something really interesting. What I heard a couple of weeks ago was this guy who was a child molester. They asked him, how do you pick a kid? And he goes, I look at the father and I see if the father's strong. If he's strong and he's, will fight, I'm not going to mess with him, with that kid. So I'll find a father who doesn't care and who doesn't, and parents who aren't paying attention. So it makes a lot of sense.
Wow. And you have a lot of, your situation was a little bit different because your father was there, but he just didn't think of it.
Yeah.
But there are a lot of single moms in Hollywood. Yeah. That is a huge thing. Single moms getting their kids into show business.
Yep. And what they do is they groom the mom to get to the kid. And usually if the mom's greedy or too about, making herself also this person, then that's what's going to happen, And that's why it's very important that you're there with you have to be there with your kids, but you got to watch people. You can't leave them alone with anybody. You just can't.
No, you can't. Even if it means losing a potential opportunity.
That's right. That's right. And that's, and it was like, the one thing I say about my mom was, I remember one time they wanted me to insult Muhammad Ali. And that's one of my idols, Muhammad Ali. On Diff'rent Strokes. And I was like, I'm not going to say this. I'm not going to insult my hero. And they were like, we'll fire you for him. My mom said, well, go ahead and fire him for it. Because that's fine. We don't need this job that bad. I'm not going to mess up his integrity to insult somebody he loves. And, then one of the other producers came and said, no, he doesn't have to say it if he doesn't want to say it. So I ended up not having to say it anyway. But you have to keep your integrity in that situation. You can't make a job more important. Like, I'm sure you saw the Gary Coleman documentary. I've
seen a couple of documentaries.
Well, have you seen the newest one on Peacock? I think it's Peacock.
I might have seen part of it.
Yeah, that's the one where they valued money more than Gary Coleman. And that's what happened to him. They valued money way more. Did
you notice that about his parents? Did you get a
we knew. We knew right away. Gary had a kidney transplant. He was back at work 2 weeks later. And it shouldn't have been like that. And it was terrible. He was throwing up and all that. His body, he was, under so much stress that his body rejected the kidney, and he shouldn't have been at work at all. Shouldn't have been there.
Why did his parents put him to work with health issues?
It's about, if you watch the documentary, you'll see it's all about money. It's all about money. They both stopped working. They're living off the kid. You can't live off. You got to, if you're a parent, someone works, someone still keeps their job, and the mom, becomes a mom, full-time mom, and then she could take him to work. But then she does what she has to do also. But you can't just give up your whole lives for the kid that's in the business. Can't do that. It just doesn't work that way.
Yeah, I saw something that Mayim Bialik posted about, her working days as a kid. And I actually posted something. I said, no child should ever have to support their parents. That is
no. Yeah, regardless, no matter how crazy my dad was, my mom was always, they both had jobs. My mom was a big manager she taught Nia Long, Regina King, Lamont Bentley, Shania Lathan. My mom trained all those people in her academy. She had an academy. She trained all those people and made them stars. And so many other people too. So many other people she trained. And so my mom was, she, did well for herself. My dad had an agency, but before that, my dad was a longshoreman. So my dad did well for himself. We were able to be, because of my dad and mom working so hard, we were able to be middle-class families in the 60s. And that was tough to be for Black people.
Right.
In the 60s. So, that was the thing about it. But just, I think, today, when I look back at my father and I see what I've gone through in this country, I can't believe that my dad had to go through that. And he was dark skinned. So I can't imagine what he had to go through. He was born in 1920. So, he had to go through. I
feel like, because I grew up in the 70s and 80s, and I was just like, la-di-da-di-da-di-da, everything's fine. And I almost feel like a jackass, like sitting here listening to you, because I grew up at that time and it was just like upper middle class. Everything was great, no problem. And not knowing that, on the other side of town or a couple of towns over, people were going through this.
Oh, yeah. And you look back now you're hearing all the stories. You're like, man, a lot of Black people were dealing with this in this country. And that's the thing about it. I think that we don't want extra. We just want to be treated fairly.
Right.
And a prime example of that is you see how Black actors are treated, how white actors are treated are two different ways. If you see that, like, for instance, Charlie Sheen, he's back on some TV show, and I'm like, wow, that's crazy. I'm not saying I'm back on TV show too, also, but I'm just saying they don't say Charlie Sheen, but they don't bring up his troubles. You know what I mean? They just.
I think they bring up his troubles. His troubles.
Well, not when they're interviewing him. They do it when when he's doing something crazy. They do, because I read a lot of articles and they just talk about him first, about what he's accomplished, and then they bring up his troubles. With me, they start off with the troubles before they bring up my accomplishments. And that's what drives me crazy.
What I don't like, okay, so my son is half Jamaican, right? So visually, when he goes out into the world, people see him as, he's 15, as a Black boy, and a Black man. But what I've always said to him is, we don't make excuses.
That's right.
We don't complain. We work our asses off. And to me, I feel like you earn inclusion, you earn equity, you earn it by working your butt off and having an amazing work ethic and being smart. I feel like he's a straight A student. He excels at everything he does. And I want him to succeed for his own merit. And I like, if we're going to get anywhere in this country, we have to say, you know what, if you want to be included, if you want equity, earn it. And I don't.
Oh, yeah.
But I get into debates with people about this all the time.
I believe that we can earn it, because there are a lot of people in this country now that don't see it the other way, the bad way. They see it the good way. Like, for instance, my son, he is doing great. My son, after he did a lot of TV, a lot of movies and stuff, and I got him out, and he studied computer programming, and he makes video games for a large company he works for. And he makes wonderful money. And he's doing quite well. What I try to say is that no matter, the difference is, because he didn't have to go through all the stuff I had to go through.
Right.
It's, even if he deals with some racism, it's not going to be like because I'm dealing with child molestation and racism. So I'm dealing with all of them stacked up on top of each other. That's what makes it more difficult.
Right.
You understand what I mean? See, if I just had to deal with racism, it would have been easier to maneuver, because you can maneuver through that. but it's hard to maneuver through things that that you're emotionally trying to deal with also. I mean, today it's easy because, I've gotten over all that. But I think I think the most destructive thing that can happen to a child is being molested. That's the most destructive thing that can happen to a kid.
I would agree.
Yeah. And I think that, and a lot of kids that have gone through small part of what I've gone through didn't even make it out. I am blessed by God to be still here, still alive, doing wonderful, feeling great. But I know today who I am. And I know today that it's not everyone. But when you live in a small world in the beginning, you think it's like 9 people out of 10 doing that to you. Then you think that, oh my gosh, the whole world's like that. But then you start to learn as you get older, okay, it's not everyone, but it's just a few, bad seeds. Because everyone has bad seeds, in their midst.
You know what it is though? I feel like we use, like, human beings, all human beings, you, me, everybody, we all want to mitigate risk in our life, and we all use a shorthand. So if we see somebody, we size them up in a few seconds, and we're like, oh, they're probably like XYZ. Okay, yeah. So either yeah, okay, come here, or no, go away, because I'm just going to use like what I have from the life that I've lived so far to size you up, because it's like a shorthand that I'm trying to mitigate risk.
Oh yeah, and that's why minorities have to dress better. It keeps it when you dress better, when you look more, you keep your hair kept, your representation of who you are in the beginning will be met actually better first before worse. But if you got your pants sagging, you got gang colors on, and you're not educated, it could be a problem, and I think that, we have to learn see, my thing is this: we should all be known just as Americans. It should be, in UK, you're not a black Englishman. You're not a white Englishman. You are just English.
Right.
And I think that...
But remember, we come from that dysfunctional family called America.
Well, we come from the ones that got kicked out. Those dysfunctional ones. That's where we come from. And those were the ones trying to make it the way it is here, trying to make it the way there, that's what they got thrown out, and they made it their own place. I think that if we could, I think that it's because we were being seen and being told that Black people were lazy and they were this and they were that. And that's just not true. But that's what we were being told. If I always say, well, they call us the lazy, then who do you think built this country? Who do you think picked all that cotton? Who do you think, we weren't lazy. We were hard workers, but the problem is over time, when they start redlining you, keeping you in certain areas, not allowing you to expand. And then when you do start expanding, then they destroy your whole town. You know what I mean? So, and that's, Roosevelt, all that stuff. That's the interesting part, is that the progress that Black people were making in this country kept getting torn down. They make progress, it would get destroyed by them. They make progress and by other people, not by themselves, and I think that, like, if the Black Wall Street would have survived, would not have been torn down, that would have shown all Black people how to save their money, how to work their money. We didn't have any teachers in front of us teach us how to do that. Because, everyone was, we got knocked down so far, it's hard to climb the ladder. And then we get the thing where our own people will go against us also for things that we're doing wonderful. And I think that it's getting better today. I really believe it is. And I believe that for this country to become united, we got to all still looking at each other as just Americans. And that's going to unite this country and make us a lot more powerful.
That's what I think. But people don't want to give up their narrative.
Yeah.
It's like, because it's so easy to say, well, let's just start from now.
Yeah.
Go, and everybody just, forgive and forget and go for, but you have people that just don't, you have people, and I always feel like this even in life, right? Some people just don't want to let go of their pain because their pain is pet.
Oh yeah.
You know what I mean? And they just,
you're absolutely right. It's the pain people don't want to let go, but it's also the fear that people have that they're going to lose out. And that's another thing people have. They feel that, they don't realize that there's enough money in this country for everyone to make lots of money, but they're afraid that if they, allow people to come in there and do what they're doing, I'm going to lose all mine. And that's just not true. It's just not how it works. Yeah. Everyone's entitled to make as much money as they can. And this is a country that would allow you to do it, and I think that this is why I'm finding out that a lot of people are moving out of this country. They're moving somewhere else. And it's like they want their money to go further. You know what I mean? And their money does in a lot of these countries. It goes much further. I've been watching, you watch a lot of YouTube, you're like, wow, man.
Yeah.
You can get these giant houses for like $60,000 in other countries. Yeah. It's like you can have 5 maids a week. You're only paying $150. You know what I mean? Like, wow. Which that would never happen here. You know what I mean? No. But you can do that there.
No.
But for me, I'm all around today a very happy person inside of myself. I really am. I'm very happy with who I am and what I'm able to accomplish, because not many people that have gone through as much as I have are still alive. They're not. And I'm glad to still be here and be on this earth, and I'm able to help people and teach people and show people there's a better way to life than just throwing it away. You have to learn to be happy within yourself, and a lot of people aren't happy within themselves.
Do you ever feel like, because Dana Plato, she passed away, I don't know if she succumbed to addiction. I don't know if it was.
She did. Yeah.
Okay. Yeah. Barry Coleman passed away. They died young. You went through hell and back. You're here. Do you ever feel survivor's guilt, or do you ever just question and feel like, how did I make it? Why?
Not at all. Not at all. I know that God has me here for a purpose. Okay. I trust in my Lord and Savior, Jesus Christ. I trust in God and Jesus. I trust in them, and I know I'm here for a reason. They've allowed me to see certain things and go through certain things because it made me a much stronger person. I'm able to teach people. That's what it's been able to do for me. What sometimes gets me is when I'm trying to tell people about certain things and they just don't hear it. They can't hear it. And I'm like, okay, you're going to learn one way or the other. Yes. You know what I mean? It's like, I can give you the advice now, you can stay away from that, or you're going to keep pushing around and you end up doing this. Yeah. I think that today, the problem we have with like some of these kids, they think they know everything. It's like, you are 14 or 16 or 17 years old. You don't know trust me, you know nothing compared to what you think you know.
Well, you don't even really know much of anything at 30.
No.
Right?
Yep. You don't. You're right. You're right. Especially for men. It takes us a long time to grow up.
Yes, it does.
It's like, to me, I'm all about respect. You respect each other, you respect yourselves, you respect other people, and you should get that in return. But it doesn't always happen. A lot of parents, I'm seeing today, they allow their kids to talk to them any kind of way. Mm-hmm. They don't, and to me, that takes away from your kid understanding that in this world, you give respect and people give it back to you, and your parents, they're fallible. They're going to make mistakes, but still, those are your parents. A lot of kids don't understand how hard it is to raise kids today. It's hard. It's not easy.
It's hard because you're competing with smartphones and TikTok and Instagram. It's very hard. But at the same time, I learned an important lesson, because my Instagram used to be filled with sexier pictures. Mm-hmm. My son, who's a teenager, I didn't realize his friends were on Instagram, and they started sending him all kinds of vulgar comments about me. Yeah. I got angry, and one day my son sat me down and he's like, "Mom, can you please delete these pictures, because I'm having a really hard time?" And and I always prided myself on being a great mom. I'm on top of everything, Johnny on the spot, but I said to myself, I'm not a great mom if I'm not showing him the proper role model of what a woman is supposed to do.
And let me tell you, we tell that all the time. Yeah. And, I'm not going to mention anybody's names, but that was one of the things I tried to tell this person, and they didn't listen to me, and the daughter suffered from it. And I tried to tell them that, it's like, I can't go out there and do, a movie, a porn film, because I'm not worried about what people say about me, but it's how it's going to affect my kids. They're the ones that are going to pay for what I do when I do something like that. Yes. And I think that it's very important that we as adults hold ourselves to the standard where, we have kids. You don't want to embarrass them, but also at the same time, the kids have to learn that they can't be back talking either. You know what I mean? And I always say that, you don't be embarrassed in front of their friends, but you give them warnings that, hey, you're going too far, you need to stop, but I think that a lot of times parents lie, especially single moms. Their lives are so full and so much stuff going on that they don't have time to discipline their children. And then, I always tell you don't discipline your child. Someone else in the real world is going to. They're going to discipline them, because, the real world is not nice, and it's not nice. It's not sweet. It will take and take and take until it puts you in the ground. A lot of parents, I think that when it comes to discipline, they forget, that disciplining your child is, and God says it completely. You spare the rod, you spoil the child. God tells you that completely. And I think it's important that we as parents, remember, we have to also help our kids by educating them on what's real and what's not real, and what they have to watch out for in the real world, and how the real world is not going to care. Right. Not going to care about, oh, you did it. So they don't care. The real world doesn't care about anything. It's I'm going to care about you because I'm your parent, and I'm going to show you that I care about you. But at the same time, you have to, give me the same. If you want all these things, you have to treat me with the same dignity that I'm going to treat you.
Absolutely.
And I think like my older kids they're great. My older kids are great. They learned a lot, and my stepkids are good too, but it's a lot of work. It's just a lot of work.
But parents have to be, kids have to give respect, but parents have to be accountable.
That's right.
That's
exactly right.
That was a huge thing that I realized. If you're not, because I realized, that, well, as a father, you have to show the right model of what a father should be, what a man should be. Mm-hmm. But as a woman, you have to show, like Steve Harvey said, what did he say? Act like a lady, think like a man. Mm-hmm. No, act like a woman, think like a man. My thing is act like a lady, think like a lady, meaning like, where are all the ladies? Because
you can't be out there showing all your booty pics and all that, because it's going to make your kids are going to pay for that. They will in school.
Right. So I learned, and I said, you know what? I have to be the role model. And women have to realize that there aren't going to be gentlemen if you're not a lady. If you want gentlemen,
yep. But that's the thing that sometimes women forget. I can do this out there. You're out there shaking your butt all over the place and people are seeing that. You're not going to attract the gentleman. You're going to attract the guy who just wants to get some. That's what you're going to attract.
Yeah. So lesson learned.
Oh, yeah. Yeah. Definitely.
By the way, I have an amazing compliment for you, because I was talking to someone I work with about this interview, and he said, you should tell him that millions of kids tuned into Diff'rent Strokes every week, and that was like therapy for them.
Oh, thank you. Appreciate that.
Yeah.
And we're working on something. We're trying to get that back to TV. There is no traditional families on TV right now.
Right.
And we're trying to create that again. And I think that we can. I think that TV is a wonderful tool. And I think that if you do the right show, parents can watch again with their kids and enjoy it and learn lessons, and then talk to the kids about the lessons that we'll learn on the show, that the kids can learn the same way. I think that's important. I think that, right now things are more kind of like all over the place. Too much going on in shows. Political, other stuff going on that you don't need to. It's not what people want to watch shows. They want to watch shows to enjoy it. Not be, politicized or talk about something else, or too much of, I just think that it's got to go back to the old style of television. I think that's the way that will make shows good again and make parents happy.
Are you working on something?
We're working on something right now.
Can you say anything about what it is?
I can't talk about it, but we're working on it. But I'm also on the Everybody Hates Chris cartoon too.
Yes.
I'm on that. And then my podcast, that's going, like my recent episodes about my mom, which is really good. My mom passed away here with us in Arizona, so.
Yeah. She was a beautiful woman. I was looking at pictures of her. Really beautiful.
Oh, yeah. Woman. My mom was great. She was everything to me. And that's why it's important for fathers to do more, so that their kids feel the same way about them. Like my son and my daughter, my oldest son and my oldest daughter, they feel that way about me because I've done everything for them too, like their mother has. I've done that for them. So, it's both of their parents they care a lot about.
And how did your mom get along with your wife, Bettijo? Did they get
they got along really well. Oh, yeah. They like the same shows. They used to watch Matlock together all the time, and all those old shows that I can't sit and watch with them. I couldn't watch those shows. It's boring to me. Matlock's a good show, but I like to have action involved. I call it action with soap opera.
Okay.
I watch shows like Chicago PD. It's a lot of action, but it's a soap opera at the same time. I watch shows like that,
You know what I got into during COVID, and I still watch it sometimes. It's on one of the streamers, Highway to Heaven with.
Oh yeah, I love that show. I used to love that show. But Michael Landon was great all around. Michael Landon was, when I did that show, it was a wonderful thing. They treated me like family when I did the show, and me and Melissa Gilbert are still good friends.
Really?
Oh yeah, we talk all the time. Yeah.
How many episodes of Little House on the Prairie did you do?
I just did one, but my episode was so traumatic for that show. It was big. It was big for that show. It was called, I don't know if you've ever seen it, but it's called The Wisdom of Solomon. I think it's the 3rd season. Look that up and watch that episode.
Look it up.
Well, it'll make you cry. It's a really, really good show.
Okay.
Now from there, which was really funny, when I was on that show, the Waltons needed a black kid, so I ended up doing the Waltons also. I was like the first black on a lot of shows.
Do you ever look back and say, my God, like I am a part of history? Like I was in Roots. I was on Little House in the Prairie.
Oh, yeah.
I was on the Waltons. I was on Diff'rent Strokes. I mean, like I am a part of television history.
Yeah, and it's interesting because sometimes they bring up like black shows and they don't talk about Diff'rent Strokes. I'm like, how could you not talk about Diff'rent Strokes? That was the pivotal point for a lot of black people, for other shows to start happening. It's interesting. The Roots is the best one. That was like, the most viewed miniseries in history. 77 million people watched that.
You were in Roots. That is incredible.
Yeah, and it was like I didn't even know about slavery till I watched Roots. Till I was in Roots.
Yeah.
Then I was like, wow, and being the first black on Little House on the Prairie, the first black on the Waltons, I did it. It was, and I think that what I'm happy about is it paved the way for a lot of other black actors to come into this business and push further, which is great.
Yeah.
I was happy with that.
So let's talk about your podcast, Dang.
Oh, yeah. Yeah.
Why is it called Dang?
My wife named it Dang because it's, my wife doesn't cuss, so it's like saying the other one. So, we talk about everything, we talk about life, and the struggles that parents have and people have and the marriages have. I think we talk about a little bit about everything. Like I said, this recent Tuesday episode was about my mom, about everything she's done and how good she was to everybody. And to me, a podcast it's fun to really get to express yourself and talk about how you feel, and all that.
Yeah.
And I think that it gives you an outlet to where people can get a sense to look into your life and see how you really are and how you are. And I'm always cracking jokes and I'm always having fun. And that's how I live my life. I think that if you take yourself too serious, you're going to be in trouble. You got to lighten up, and not take everything so serious and realize that, if you keep your immediate people around you, you keep them happy and laughing, it's better for all of us. We all live longer.
Absolutely. And your wife is awesome. I've listened to episodes. I love her. She's smart. She's funny.
She is.
She knows how to handle you.
Yeah. Yeah. Sometimes too good.
She's a good handler.
Yes, she is. She is.
So are you guys doing video or just audio podcast?
Oh, no, it's video too. It's video. The video's on there. Yeah. You can watch, if you watch the whole thing on video, you'll see the video also. But I think for certain things, it's in the car, it's just the voices. But in I think if you're at home or you're on your phone, you can see the whole video and everything and see us talking and stuff.
Okay. So
we have a really good show coming up too. I don't know, it's coming up not for a couple of weeks, showing on the opiate crisis in this country.
Okay.
I think it's going to be really good because I really believe that they, with all these laws in place, it does a lot of good, but also it's hurting people that really need it. You know what I mean? And we talked to an expert on that, and it's going to be great to hear from him and hear how it really works. Yeah.
Okay. And I just have to ask you a few questions that I ask everybody.
Okay.
Well, first of all, I know the answer to do you pray because you are a Christian.
Oh, yeah. Oh, yeah. All the time.
If you could go back in time and change some famous historical event, where would you like to go and what would you attempt to change?
Ooh, wow. That's a tough one because the ramifications of doing that will change too much other stuff. I think in God's world, we are exactly where we're supposed to be. So I don't think I'd want to change anything. I think I'd want to go back and get a few people, and really learn from them. I'd want to go to the slavery day and, get in a tank and be like, now what? I got all y'all, and free a bunch of people, I'd actually want to meet Harriet Tubman, those who I'd want to meet.
Okay.
I think I'd want to meet Harriet Tubman. That's who I'd really want to meet. And I'd want to meet Dr. Martin Luther King, I think also. And John F. Kennedy, I think. That's the people I would want to meet.
Okay.
Yeah. I don't know if I wouldn't want to change anything, but I think because I know that if you change stuff, the ramifications would be out of control. So yeah, it has to be exactly where we are.
Interesting. Okay. And well, do you plan on writing a second book? Because you wrote a first memoir, Killing Willis.
Yeah. I definitely plan on writing a second book. I think it's going to be about family, and about what's it like, having stepkids and that kind of stuff, and the challenges that we have to go through as parents.
And what do you think you came into this lifetime as Todd Bridges to learn? And what do you think you came here to teach people?
I definitely came here to learn. I think to learn how life doesn't necessarily always have to be fair, but what I can teach you is how to be okay with your life the way it is, and to move forward from that to make things better. Okay. And that's what I help people understand, that you can make mistakes all you want, but as long as you brush stuff off and keep moving forward, that's better. And don't be afraid to fall down, hit your head, get back up and clean up. You got to, because I think that everyone makes mistakes. The difference is some of ours is magnetized bigger than others. That's all,
Absolutely. Well, thank you, Todd. I really appreciate it. This was a wonderful interview. Thank you so much. And
you got it.
Please.
Thank you so much. And no more booty pics on mine, okay?
No
All right. God bless you. Thank you so much.
You can listen to this entire episode and other interviews of mine by going to Apple Podcasts or Spotify and downloading and subscribing to the Allison Interviews Podcast.